All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
And we are coming today with a special guest we're super excited about. This is Sarah Williams. And let's tell our audience a little bit about Sarah before we begin. If you're following along with this, with the visual, there's one in YouTube. And Jake, what is that she does?
So as you can see, if you're seeing the visual, she has a publishing company that she started called Debarim Publishing. And Matt, why don't you tell us how you ran across her website?
That is a great question. And one of the things that I saw early on from her was her Instagram account and social media. That kind of caught my eye. And then I saw her and I checked out her website and then checked out she did another interview in YouTube, and I was like, okay, seems pretty interesting. I want to check this out. And so here is her picture. And so Sarah, would you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I know a good place to start probably is, what's your life like on your homestead that you have?
Well, it's a fun life for sure. My husband and I have been homesteading for just about a decade now. We started with about 20 sheep and 30 chickens, and now over the years we've had gone back and forth, butchering our own sheep and whatnot, but we've had hundreds of sheep over the years now, and we still have chickens and we have turkeys and ducks now, but we have our own homestead where we try to, raise our own food and teaching our kids the homestead life. We have 3 little girls and a little boy on the way. And it's been a wonderful life. It's definitely taught us a lot. Yah's been very good to us in that way. But it's a lot of fun. We really enjoy having the animals on the homestead and seeing the kids grow up with them.
Yes, there's no better way to me for a kid to grow up than to do that. That's for sure. Jake and I both are blessed with the same kind of abilities, and Jake is a kind of a master of raising meat chickens.
That's right.
From the beginning to the end, he can take care of it.
Yeah,
and so he's good to know for that. So,
that's kind of similar to before we even got started in Torah. My wife kind of had this calling to start growing her own food and stuff like that, and I was really into like survival stuff, so it kind of led that direction. And but why don't you tell us a little bit about like how you came to Torah?
So that's actually obviously through Yah, but through my husband as well. I didn't grow up in the church actually at all. I didn't even actually start attending a church until I was 29 years old. And so my husband, he grew up in the Methodist church, and when we met, neither of us were going to church at the time, though. But in our late 20s, early 30s, Yah really started pulling us back to him. And we started going to actually a Pentecostal church, but something just didn't feel quite right. And my husband started watching actually Shofar Mountain on YouTube. It's with Pastor Joe Fox. He's since retired, but his videos are still on YouTube. And Pastor Joe Fox was teaching Torah, and he was teaching about, following the whole Bible and not just bits and pieces and things like that. And so for about a year, I want to say, I would just hear somebody on YouTube talking about Torah and teaching about Passover and Sukkot and everything like that. And there was one year, maybe, I think it was probably 2019 or so, my husband's like, I want to try to do something Passover-ish. And it was literally like 3 days before Passover. And so we ended up just buying some lamb from the store because that's the only thing we could do at the time. And we, had like a little dinner and everything like that. But then subsequently the following year, we actually did our own, with our own lamb and everything like that. And we've been doing that for, this will be the 3rd year now that we've actually been able to take one of our lambs from the field and do it for Passover. And it was about a year into my husband listening to Shofar Mountain that he looked at me and basically said to me, we need to start following Torah. And at that point, I'd seen how much my husband had grown in his faith and how much closer he had come to Yah and how much Yah had been working through him. And so for my husband to say that to me, considering we've been together for 14 years now, considering what we had been through, for him to say something like that, I knew it was Yah-led, and I absolutely said, okay, we're doing this. Like, what do we have to do? And like I said, I had listened to some of the videos, like kind of in passing, but I hadn't had a huge interest in it. But once my husband said, we're doing this, then I was all in and doing all the research and listening to the things and everything like that. So it's been since about 2019 that we've been, first started. And then now we're trying to do all the things we can, per what Torah says.
Right. Yeah, it's such a blessing to have, both of you kind of getting in at the same time, kind of coming together with it. You don't see that as often as would be, as you would like, Yeah,
I know it's not. I have friends that have not been in the same situation, and I know it can be difficult, but it's, like I said, when it was a lot of, like I said, I saw Yah working through my husband. And at that point, I had already been on my own journey of trying to become closer to Yah. And it was one of those things I couldn't say no. Like, I knew I couldn't say no. And it was even not that I even wanted to say no, but I knew that this was the right path for us. And I trusted my husband that he was doing what was right for our family, and I haven't regretted it once.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great testimony. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And so I understand that you wrote a book in 2020, which would be fairly close to after you went through this, and it's called People in the Pews. So, so talk to us a little bit about, People in the Pews. What's that about?
So People in the Pews was the first book that Yah placed it on my heart to write. I was actually sitting in church, and this was literally before everything started getting shut down. And I'm sitting in church, and it was a Wednesday night service, I believe, and I'm just looking around at, the people and listening to what the pastor's talking about. And I hear, I want you to write a book. And I was like, okay. And I do have a degree in journalism, so writing is not off the beaten path for me. But I was like, okay. And I said, all right, God, what do you want me to write about? I can't have a book without a subject. And so he said, I want you to share their stories, the people in the pews. And that's basically what I did. This book was as we were starting to come to Torah, so it kind of has like a Pentecostal / Torah vibe to it. Like all the scriptures that I used in it are from the scriptures from the International Scripture Research, or Institute for Scripture Research. Sorry, I might be murdering that. But so it's from the scriptures, so it has like Yah and Elohim written in the scriptures in the book, but it's still kind of from the Pentecostal perspective. But I wrote that book. It took me about 7 months to write, and then it was published and became available early 2021. But it was actually through that experience, with an unfortunate publishing experience, that actually ended up leading to Debarim Publishing. So I look at it as actually a blessing versus a negative thing that happened.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So do you care to elaborate a little bit more about what you didn't like about that publishing process?
Yeah, so the publishing company that I used, it was a faith-based, they were a Christian publishing company, and they were excellent throughout the process, no issues with customer service or anything like that. But once the book was published, they actually stopped paying me 2 months after the book was available online. And so it's been actually 2 years now, this month, 2 years this month now that the book was published, and I haven't seen anything since basically 2 years ago. And they still have it listed online, which is fine. At this point, I don't care because I see why Yah had things happen the way it did. But it was a very difficult moment to realize that I'd done all the work, and then this company was stealing from me. And especially since they're a faith-based company, it really frustrated me because not just from a personal level, but at the same time, I know that things like this can really affect other people, and unfortunately can affect other people's relationship with Yah. And it didn't do that for me, but it made me just kind of sad overall that something like that could happen. definitely disappointed that they were basically stealing from me, and that I had the feeling that this was probably not the first time something like this would happen, and it more so frustrated me that I know experiences like this can affect people and sometimes can affect their relationship with Yah. It didn't do that for me. It just made me saddened by the experience in general. And basically that experience and having that moment where it's like, something has to change. Something has to be created where people can trust that they're using somebody who's trustworthy and provides the services they say and things like that. And so that's kind of eventually what led into Debarim Publishing.
Yeah, so I think it's one of the things that I've heard said, and I think it's pretty interesting, is when you look at a process or a situation, and you go, someone should do something about that, you've just had a great idea. So,
yeah. Yeah, I didn't think I would actually be starting a publishing company. Like that was not on my radar at all. But apparently Yah had other plans, because here we are 2 years later, and basically almost the same month that I basically lost my first book, I started a publishing company. So it all works out.
Yeah, well, that Jake and I were talking before, and we were talking about how when I have looked at the publishing thing for many years at different angles, and one of the things that has always somewhat troubled me about it is, when you, especially if you have a belief system such as ours, or even traditional Christianity, there are certain things that you don't want to be associated with, and so there are a lot of these publishing houses and even book agents that when you align yourself with, you're aligning yourself with lots of things you may not believe and want to support. And so I think it's a real blessing to have someone that shares our values and that we can partner with like this, because if you go a different route, you just don't know what you're going to get, and the other people you might be associated with.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and that was something too. That's when my second book, I started writing that.
And so your second book is I Saw the Earth Wake Up?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's actually a children's book, so it's a very different genre than my first book, which was an adult chapter book. But that was when I was starting my second book, I looked for Torah-observant publishers, and I even looked at Jewish publishers, because the book teaches Torah to children, and I was trying to figure out the right path to go, and that's literally when Debarim Publishing kind of got started, because I was like, there's not really anything out there for anybody who follows Torah that's not necessarily specifically Jewish, or has, Jewish background or things like that. And I'm a big proponent on the fact that not just with myself as an author, but other authors out there, God gives people certain words to share. And those are the words that are supposed to be shared. They're not supposed to be changed or edited by some corporation or, anything like that. It's the words Yah has given to that person. And so that's what I'm really passionate about, is making sure that the words that Yah gives other authors is the word that gets out there, because those are his words, and he uses us to write them down, but those are his words.
Yeah, that's well said, for sure. And he's not too much about being politically correct, is he?
Correct. Yeah. I expect some controversial books in the future, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's for sure. So he definitely, through time, he has used people to do some outlandish things to get his message across, for sure. Correct. So you kind of have touched on it a little bit here, but when you're talking about about the publishing, about regular publishing versus kind of what you do. So what would you say, other than, yes, you are looking for like-minded individuals to publish, and how is what you do different maybe than what traditional publishing or even regular self-publishing? How is what you do different?
So with regular publishing, a lot of times with regular publishing, you have to go through like a literary agent, and you have to submit manuscripts through them, and there's a whole huge process with that. Right now, with our process that I have with Debarim Publishing, it's a lot more people friendly, I guess. Like you're dealing directly with me. And so, I'm the one working with you on your manuscript. I'm the one, going through and offering any advice and things like that. I don't require a literary agent to be present in that process or anything like that. So it's a little bit more, I guess, family-friendly kind of deal. But the difference between self-publishing is with self-publishing, there is a certain aspect of you got to do it all yourself kind of deal. Like you can pay someone to help with like editing or things like that, but there's no back end like marketing trying to help you succeed. Whereas with me, yes, I am going to work with you on editing, the cover layout, the interior layout, all the things that a publisher would work with you on and would help you with. But at the same time, it's different than the self-publishing because I am truly working on creating a network for marketing books that authors write and working on creating even like a broader network too, where I'm also bringing in like other Torah observant individuals who have creative talents. Like I, want to bring in more artists to be able to work with authors. And so helping build actually more of a network versus just, all right, I'm going to help you do your book and that's it. Go have fun. You're on your own now. I want your book to succeed because I know ultimately God's in control of it. Like if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen per Yah. But at the same time, I want to be able to give people who maybe have never even done something like this tools and tips and an avenue to go to help promote their books and things like that as well. So it's a little bit different than self-publishing, where self-publishing companies just, you pay them to do something and then they're done, and they don't really help you with marketing or anything like that.
Right. I just had a quick question. So is it your intent to just publish Torah-related books, or is it mainly books written by Torah observant people? Do you see the distinction I'm making there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's Torah observant individuals, because God is not just placing certain words in certain people's hearts that are specifically like teaching Torah. So one of the authors I'm working now with, actually Sister Kate from Shofar Mountain, she has several books she's working on, but the first one that she really felt led to publish is one about homesteading hints. And this woman has many, 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 many years of homesteading under her belt and her husband's belt, and a lot of experience that's incredibly beneficial to people starting out, or even people who are, even myself and my husband who are, a decade in, we're still learning things from her and her husband. So that's what Yah's placed on her heart, and I think that's important to share. And so it doesn't teach Torah in the book, but it is an incredible resource for anybody who's wanting to start a homestead. And so, and what better way, linking her, her and her husband's YouTube with Shofar Mountain and things like that. So it's still kind of bringing people to Torah in a way that's not necessarily like in their face, which I like as well too, because somebody who may just be interested in homesteading finds her book, but then finds her husband's channel where he's preaching and teaching Torah. And so then there's a seed planted. And so it's Torah observant authors in general.
Great. Yeah, one of the things that we started watching homestead things, and then that got us into watching Torah-related things. So it's kind of interesting how those two things are tied together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and as you were talking a while ago about the agents, and something that came to my mind is I may be way off base, but which I sometimes am.
Never happened.
Right. I feel like this idea of the literary agents is a dinosaur, really, and it may be similar to some of the record labels back in the day before digital media and before things like Spotify came along. And I feel like there's going to be like a Netflix of books, possibly. And what Netflix has done in the video production world is now, if you have a good idea and a creative, story. You can make a story and pitch it to Netflix, and you're on Netflix. You don't have to have a movie theater and all the things that you used to have. You skip all of that and you go straight to production and straight to people paying you money to watch whatever you made. Do you think that books undergo that type of revolution at some point in this idea of the hybrid self-publishing, if you will? Is it going to become more of the norm? I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
I think with books, I still think there's a stigma with I want to be published by XYZ publishing house to a certain extent with some authors. There's that notoriety that they look for, or they just want that, they want to say they're published by that company. So I think some people will still go that route because they want to be published by a certain company. But at the same time, there is so many other options out there. And I do think that, kind of with the self-publishing options, or, like what I'm doing is, helping with the editing process and everything else and making your manuscript an actual book. But at the same time, you're working directly with the company versus sending it off to a company and then just doing whatever with your book. I think there are more people that are probably interested in that now because there is those options available to people. And that wasn't necessarily the case, 20, 30 years ago. 20, 30 years ago, if you were a self-published author, that was just really looked down upon. And there was no way your book was going to get any, credibility. So I think now with being able to do the self-publishing option or the hybrid, like with Debarim Publishing, there's still the option for people to be able to get on marketplaces like Amazon or Barnes & Noble and not having to use the big publishing houses. So I think it's going to be more just dependent on the person who's publishing, or the author, I should say, and what avenue they really want to go for. There's still plenty of market for the big, huge publishing houses because of the notoriety, but I think a lot more people are actually starting to lean towards trying to, do the hybrid or do their own thing because there are those options available.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me. And another thing that I wonder, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but when you do this kind of model, I believe you have more control over things and more say as the artist. Is that correct?
Yes. So like with anybody that I work with books, if there's cover art that's done, I'm making sure prior to the cover art going into production that you approve it. Same with interior layout. I've done this recently with Sister Kate, and so she approved the book cover or gave me some suggestions of feedback of what she would like to maybe changed, and same with the interior layout. I sent her the interior layout and said this is kind of my idea basically of what I think would look good with the style of your book, and she gave me any kind of questions or anything like that she had, and we discussed it, and then we can move forward through production. So I definitely make sure that the authors approve of the looks of the book. And obviously, I'm not changing anybody's words, but I still, would edit for punctuation and grammatical things and flow and everything else. But all that still is approved prior to moving on to the next step.
Yeah, I think that's amazing for sure. That's what I really like about it. I like freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's just fantastic. Okay, so take it or leave it. I'm an idea person, Sarah, and I can't help it. So my brain does do this. And so as you were talking, a lot of listeners, a lot of people that we know in Torah community are homeschools, do homeschooling. Mm-hmm. And I think that you could do some interesting things in the homeschooling community, even with children. I'm a former educator, an elementary educator for 19 plus years, and so I always try to get kids to write and journal, and I would think there's something you could do with homeschool kids and having them do some things and maybe even publish some things that kids do. So, because I think you're so right about, I want to move to the scripture that you talked about. So, but before I forget though, Jake, tell us where her website is. So if they want to get to her website, what do they do?
Okay, you go to www.debarimpublishing.com.
So please do that. Check her out. She has got an Instagram page as well, and that's pretty easy to find, I think, as well on Instagram. Just type that in and you should find it. So she put a scripture in here, which is Jeremiah 30. And so explain that about what does that scripture mean to you? Why did you pick this in here? And what do you think it means to maybe somebody out there that might be hearing you and maybe unsure of what to do, but maybe feels like they've got some words that they need to say?
So Jeremiah 32 says, "Write in a book for yourself all the words that I have given you," and in about that much. And for me, when I was writing my first book, that scripture is in my first book in like the introduction section. And it's something that I've held on through my second book, and I believe it's very profound because what that scripture is actually talking about is writing the Torah and copying the Torah down for yourself. But at the same time, I think that is so useful to authors right now because the Torah is already there. The Bible's already there. We're not going to be rewriting that. But Yah is still giving people words, and he is still giving people messages to share. And so I believe for right now anyways, I mean, obviously still, writing the Torah for yourself is fantastic. But from an author perspective, I think it's important to write down the words that Yah is sharing with you. I think it's important to share those words because he is giving people words, and and it's so cool hearing all the stuff that people are, coming up with and the ideas that they've been given and everything like that. But he wants to share it, and I believe very much so that especially within the Torah community, there's a lot of resources that can be created for children, for adults, and things like that to help better educate individuals and to even help them teaching, like you're talking about with children, teaching children in the future because, this is, sometimes it's a little difficult living this life and not living, especially if you don't have fellowship nearby. And we didn't really have any fellowship in Florida. And so having resources to help teach children or your teenagers or even as an adult that is, biblically based, but not necessarily the Bible, especially for like children, it's kind of easier for them to chew on something a little bit more children friendly, written more towards them. And so if Yah is giving you a word, write it down and share it because you don't know who needs that. You have no idea who may need that book specifically for their family or for their child.
Right. And I think kind of what you're describing, storytelling really is, kind of the best way to change people's minds because they can relate to it a lot better than just spitting facts at people. If you can tell a good story about the point you're trying to make. It's like learning history in school when you're just getting, dates and names. It gets very confusing. But then when you leave school and you're like, I kind of want to learn about all this history stuff because I'll know with you, but a lot of people I know of get excited about history after school, not during school. And then it's like, because there's so many interesting stories out there about history that you don't get in the classroom, and you can actually absorb what's being said because it's in story form.
Yeah, well, Yeshua used parables all the time to teach. And so what better way to teach than tell stories?
Exactly.
If Yeshua did it, why can't we?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And, the best history teacher I ever had was at this little Christian college. And
You're muted.
No, I think I'm muted.
Oh, okay.
And he came in every day. His name was Lester Perrin, and he was amazing. And he taught a Western civilizations class, and he just would come sit on the desk every day and start talking. And he just told stories. And as a history teacher, that is kind of what I tried to do. And because it is powerful, and that you remember stories when people tell you stories. And so it's great that you're helping people tell their stories. And you probably would agree. I think people need to journal. They need to write things down that helps them remember. And Also kind of helps you organize your thoughts and ideas, because sometimes some of your best ideas may come, I think in the middle of the night. It's a good idea to keep a journal next to you, next to your bed, so that in the morning when you wake up, or just anytime you have something that's kind of eating on you or you're thinking about, write it down, and maybe come over and pray about it. And, you may be able to develop something off of things like that. So,
Absolutely.
So, but, and so the other question I have, you kind of touched on it a little bit. So you started getting some interest in the Torah community. How are you gauging the interest so far? What kind of response are you seeing so far?
I have truly been overwhelmed multiple times by Yah's greatness. I am incredibly humbled by how many people have reached out to me, and there's a certain amount of there's a certain amount of, like, you got to do it right when it's your book, but then when other people are coming to you with their books, and these are words that I know Yah has placed on their hearts, and I have to be mindful of that, and not really, it's like, wow, Yah, I don't know why you chose me. I truly don't, but thank you. Like, I don't know, like, thank you so much, and thank you for guiding me and leading me to do this. But it has been absolutely incredible I've had many, many authors reaching out to me over the last month or so with book ideas, or they're getting ready to start a book and they kind of just need some tips on how to get started and things like that. And so it's been beautiful to hear some of the words that Yah has placed on people's hearts. And there's definitely people. There's been plenty of people that have reached out to me. And like I said, I've been really humbled and in awe of what Yah is doing through just the people he's brought to me already. And I honestly, I couldn't be more thankful and also slightly terrified.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic.
It's a big responsibility.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like you're up for it. Well, since you write books and help people write books, what is your favorite book that's not the Bible?
My favorite book is A Land Remembered by Patrick D. Smith. It is an incredible book about basically it's three generations of follows three generations of a family, basically starting from a man the grandfather who basically lives in the swamps of Florida and builds up his farm, which is funny because now I have a farm, and I read this book before I had a farm. And he builds up a farm, and then his son takes over and builds it even more, and they start buying land. This is like from basically the 1800s to like the 1950s. And then it comes to the grandson who is building up Miami, basically, and putting the skyscrapers in and all the hotels and everything like that. And so it follows that family and basically the trials and the triumphs they've had and everything like that. And talking about being from Florida, I've seen the subdivisions that have come in and plowed out the orange groves, or the subdivisions that have taken over the cattle farms. And quite frankly, it just breaks my heart. But I've seen all that stuff happening, but obviously from a much later perspective. But this is from that time period. And it's interesting. It's a beautifully written story about each man's perspective and their family's perspective. And then ultimately the grandson and like his thoughts and feelings on what he's done as basically, destroying swamplands and destroying, forests and stuff like that for progress. And so it's a really good story. I highly recommend that book. Even if you're not from Florida, it's a great book.
Yeah, no, that sounds like an amazing book for sure. So I'm in landscaping, and we live in the Metroplex, which is Dallas-Fort Worth. Well, actually, I don't know why I said Dallas-Fort Worth. It's Fort Worth, Dallas. And
It's just Fort Worth.
It's just Fort Worth. And there are so many people that live here, and people are moving in here all the time, and that's happening all over. They're taking farmland, pasture land, places I remember, going. Sometimes I remember going and getting coastal hay and loading it up when I was younger, and now it's full of houses, and I'm like, it makes me sad, and I'm afraid that if we're not careful, we're going to regret taking some of this good farmland that we've taken out of production and put houses on to grow sod.
Right.
I think we're going to regret some of that. But Anyway, it is sad that it's changing. But at the same time, I can't blame someone who's in a bad situation or a state they don't like, and they move, and things are better for them. So I can't hardly blame them for wanting to be here. So
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of a give and take.
Yep. So
it is what it is.
I want to come back to publishing services that you offer. So so it looks like that you offer editing, and you do custom design book covers. You help with the layout of the book. You help with copyright, ISBN, publication, distribution, and I'm not sure what author services is.
Author services is basically the support along the way. So having the ability to contact me and ask me questions, and then getting feedback and things like that. So that's having a point of contact within the company that you can reach out to and have an actual customer service experience with, versus just typing things in on a computer.
So if somebody were to call you, would they get an automatic answering machine or a service, or somebody that, some machine? Are they going to talk to you?
They get me.
Yeah.
They get me.
It won't be one of those, please state your name, or please press 1 to talk to this. Please press 2. I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I like to, typically authors reach out via email first, and that way I can get an idea of, kind of what they're looking for and the book that they're writing and things like that, getting a general idea ahead of time. And then I like to set up consultations, and they are free consultations, but I'll set up a consultation time where I call and talk to the author, and we discuss their book. I really like to get their idea and their vision for their book, like what they are hoping for their book, or what Yah's placed on their heart to do with the book. And we do the consultation, and then basically we go from there, whether they want to work with me or need to take their time, or they're still in the middle of writing. So we just go from there after the consultation.
Okay. That's great. And what would you say what's the biggest need as far as like vacuum of topics? Maybe it may not even be the biggest need necessarily in the Torah community, or what would you really like to do more of in the publishing world? Like, is there a particular topic or genre that you feel like is greatly lacking in the Torah community that you really want to see increased?
There's definitely a need for children's books, for sure. As a parent myself, I have my 3 young daughters and everything, and then, like I said, our son on the way. But there's definitely a need for children's books, and it's been really interesting because as a mom who's written a children's book, I've actually had several other moms reach out to me that have written children's books. So it's kind of interesting how Yah's been placing that on a lot of moms' hearts. But at the same time, I feel there is that need for children's books, but at the same time, I really feel like whatever Yah is placing on people's hearts, because that's where that need is. Because I think Yah is leading people to write certain kinds of books, and it's not necessarily a specific niche or anything like that, but it's what is needed at that time. And it may change. Like, I may get flooded with children's books, and then I get flooded with teenage books or adult books or personal testimonies or things like that. And it may fluctuate, but I think all that honestly is Yah picking and choosing who's writing what when.
No, yeah, that makes sense. And so as you were talking, I can't help but think, I taught math, science, and social studies were my main subjects, and I was always so frustrated in science because, as you know, everything is evolution-based, and I would teach creation-based because I was able to do that. But on the test, I had to teach evolution concepts, and I would say, to kids, well, I know that this is what you got to say on the test, but you and I know that this was created.
Yeah.
And so I would present it that way. But, I think for sure there's a big void, I still think, in creation accounts and animal accounts. And there's just, because all the science is so skewed to evolution, millions of years, billions of years, flood denial, and all of those things, that I think there's, definitely a void that could be filled with some books, children's books, especially on that topic.
Yeah, and I think Matt's big hang up is there are enough Bigfoot books, right?
That's right. We need more Bigfoot books. So that's right. Well, we are kind of coming to the end of this, and you've got a new title coming out, and so tell us a little bit about, I believe it's Homestead Hints.
Yes, that's the first book of Sister Kate's that she's putting out with Shofar Mountain. It is an excellent book for anybody who's getting ready to start homesteading, or even people who have been homesteading for a while. She's got a lot of great tips, especially for people who, the saying, come out of her, my people. She's got a lot of really great tips for people who are trying to do that and basically trying to start over and leaving the rat race and coming out to the country. And so she's got a lot of great tips on like buying land and things like that that are definitely needed, because my husband and I have been there and done that and got the T-shirt. And so it's a really good book of overall just homesteading with gardening and animals and things like that, the knowledge that she has, but also helping someone who's literally like basically lived city life their entire lives and is now trying to do the homestead thing.
And you said she's been homesteading for quite a long time. Do you know what area of the country she kind of homesteads in, or has she been several places?
She's been in the Ozarks for, I want to say, around 20 years.
Okay.
But she's lived all over the country.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's good to have the background of other places too when you look at that. So it's good she has that background.
So if we want to buy Sister Kate's book, where should we look to find that?
That will initially be coming out through Debarim Publishing, and I believe she's going to want it on Amazon as well. But we're literally in the final processes right now of getting the layout done and to her liking, and then it's copyright and ISBN, and then it'll be ready for publication. So it'll be on DebarimPublishing.com for sure, and then probably Amazon as well.
Oh, that's great. So we encourage you to check out Homestead Hints by Sister Kate, coming soon. So, and I also have an image here of your Instagram, which is Debarim Publishing, and she posts on a regular basis there. And I think that that is about it. And so, Jake, can you tell us a little bit? There's 3 things here she listed on how to get her.
Right, so if you want to check out more from Sarah, you're going to go to www.debarimpublishing.com, and you can email her at admin@debarimpublishing.com, or check out her Instagram at Debarim Publishing.
Awesome. All right, well, Sarah, we so appreciate your time and being patient with us, and is there anything else you want to say before we get off the line with you?
Right, give us your best publishing commercial.
Oh, gosh. All right. So basically, it's going to be Jeremiah 32. Write a book for yourself, all the words I've given you. You write the words that God has given you and pray on it. I tell all my authors to pray on it. And I want you to know, basically, with Debarim Publishing, that this is a company that I created to be trustworthy. I created to be a safe space for Torah-observant authors to be able to write the words that Yah placed on their heart without having to worry about an agenda being pushed, because it is important what Yah is trying to share through our community and through the individuals within it. And so I just pray that you are obedient to Yah and that you listen to Him. And, of course, I would love to help anybody who has questions about publishing.
No, that's great. That's great. So
yeah, I like your distinction with the Jeremiah 30 verse 2 with acknowledging that it's talking about writing a Torah, and then also a lot of times His word has multiple meanings and can cut through our one-track minds, but yeah, everyone does have a story to tell, and I think that's a good way to parse it. And also, I wanted to say I like your the tassel in your logo. It's pretty cool the way you did that.
Thank you. Yes, it was very important to me for that tzatziki in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and we just want to encourage everybody out there to go Google her, check out the website, look at some of these things, and be encouraged to tell your story because it's important. And it's a story unique to you, and she said it so well, and just encourage you to not be afraid, and say what he's been putting on your heart, and we just thank you for putting your talents out there and helping the community, and we pray that Yah will bless your work and keep sending you people, and I pray that you have to have help in doing this, and you'll have to have somebody come along and help you do and process all the things that you've got to do. So we look forward to seeing what happens, and seeing how Yah grows your company, and seeing what the next level is. And so check her out, check these things out, and we appreciate everyone taking a minute to go to Sabbath Lounge as well. And please give us all a like, subscribe to our channels and our things, and do all those things. And please share it with other people.
Yeah, the more traffic goes to the websites, the more people get to notice them, and it just kind of shares around. So
that's right, because this isn't for our glory, this isn't for our pocketbook, this is for the glory of the kingdom, and getting his message out. And it's amazing that we live in a day and time which podcast, video, YouTube, writing books, all of this is easy, and it's just amazing that we have all these different ways to tell the story. And anyway, Sarah, we appreciate you taking time today, and we're going to continue to talk to Sarah for a minute, and we're going to go ahead and sign off Sabbath Lounge. And Sarah, hang on, stay on the line for just a minute, but this is Matt
and Jake
signing out.